Welcome to WordPress for Beginners from Drop the Mask Productions. In Unit 1, we'll take you through how to install WordPress, establish the differences between the free and paid services, and setting up your own URL for the first time. In Unit 2, we'll go through the different elements and tools that can be used to customize and make your site unique. This includes themes, plugins, and templates, and using a visual editor or page builder such as Elementor. Our aim is to help you understand the basics of web terminology, how to install and use WordPress and all of its elements. So what is WordPress?
WordPress is the simplest, most popular way to create a website or blog. It's basically a content management system which makes it easy to manage important aspects of your website, such as content.
And how does it compare to other services that you may have already heard of?
If you go to wordpress.org, you will see that it looks like any other site. You can click on the Get WordPress button and that will provide you with a website that's hosted on their domain. We'll come to what domain means in just a minute. We'll be installing WordPress on our own domain, but if you want to give it a go, you can use this site and get used to the system before spending any money on hosting or your own domain name.
WordPress isn't the only site building service out there. Squarespace, Wix, Weebly are also considered as site building services. Each site is different in that some are free, but have limited templates and services, whilst others charge a yearly subscription fee. Let's take a quick look at the pros and cons of each version.
Squarespace isn't the cheapest option, but it's slick and easy to use. They do a 14-day trial. It's a close second to WordPress.
Wix is really easy to use and popular amongst beginners, but it's quite limited with templates and functions. If you want to set up a shop on your website, I wouldn't recommend using Wix for this.
Xero has lots of graphic design features and can help with creating logos and style guides.
Weebly might not be suitable for everyone, but it's good for selling online products. Site123 has been branded as one of the easiest free website builders, but it's quite limited with functionality compared to other website builders.
Today we'll be focusing on WordPress as it's really easy to use, and when combined with a visual editor like Elementor and templates, it's a great platform to get creative with in no time at all. Let's go over some key phrases that you're going to be hearing a lot.
A site or website is the place where all of the data is held and is made up of your web pages for your business or personal use. For example, a contacts page, about us, and other aspects. This is linked to a URL which stands for Uniform Resource Locator. For example, www.apple.com is a URL or web address, which is a domain. When you buy a domain, you're essentially buying into an address on the web. It's like buying a plot of land for a house with an address. You need a place to build that house, and that is the domain. Hosting is a service that keeps the website up and running all of the time. When you buy hosting, you're basically buying space on a server that means that at whatever time of day, anyone can access your website. Going back to the house analogy, the hosting providers are like the structure of the house and all its content. This means that you can access it whenever you want to by going to the web address provided. When it comes to WordPress, there are a few terms that will come up directly relating to this. For example, themes are the look of your site. There are thousands of different themes to choose from. Some are free, but most you have to pay for. Templates are specific layouts within themes for the different parts of your site. You might, for example, have a template for the home page, a template for the blog page, or a template for your contacts page, and so on. Plugins are really powerful tools that work in the background of your site and do a whole host of things like make the privacy better or make the site easier to find on Google. The admin area is the back end of the site. Picture a shop. The front end would be the shop floor and the back end would be the warehouse, staff room or office. It's all the places you need to be there to keep the shop going, but you don't want your average Joe to have access to. It's the same with a website. The front end is where you have your public-facing website, what people see when they go to your URL, and the back end is where you make all of the changes and update the content, and this is where WordPress comes in. We're going to run through the installation process. We're using our hosting platform 20i.com. However, there are hundreds available. 20i is great because it's easy to use and has a very clean user interface. which is called the control panel. It has a quick and simple one-click WordPress installer. Usually, your hosting platform will have something similar. When you log into your hosting site, more often than not, they will have an area called the control panel. This is where you can see all of your domain information and files that are held on the server. These files are what make up the website, and they tell browsers like Chrome or Firefox what to show when people go on your website. On the whole, you can install WordPress really quickly from the control panel.
Now that we have WordPress installed, we'll look at its functionality and some of the powerful tools that are on offer. There are paid versions of some of the tools, templates and themes, but to start with, it's probably best to stick with the free versions until you know exactly what you want. Over the next section, we'll go through all the parts of the WordPress Administrator dashboard, how to install a visual editor, in this case Elementor, and how to install templates and themes. The WordPress dashboard is where you can change all the settings on your website. Acting as an admin area is where you can change how it looks, how it reacts to certain situations, the content, and also in some ways control how people navigate around your site. Let's start by looking at the boxes on the left. There'll be some sections that you use a lot, and others which you won't need to use on a regular basis. Home is your starting point with a new login. Under that we have updates. This shows all your plugins and where WordPress itself can be updated. Keep an eye on this section as it's important to keep everything up to date to increase security across your site. You'll also see posts. This is where all your blog posts are kept. You can create new posts in this section, edit old ones, and keep on top of categories and tags. Media. This is where you can upload photography and files, including PDFs and music. It's important to note you can't upload videos into this section. If you want to use videos throughout your site, they must be linked in from outside services like Vimeo or YouTube. Pages. This is where all of your website's pages are kept and makes up the main part of your site. So once you've set up pages such as your home page, your contacts page, you'll see them here and be able to open them and edit the layout and content of each. Comments. This is where you can manage all the comments that have been made on your blog posts. If you aren't having a blog, you don't need to worry about this page too much. Appearance. This is probably one of the most visual areas of the site. This is where you can manage your themes, customize the content, and rearrange the order of the menus. You can also install plugins and edit elements of the themes here. You'll also see the plugins section. So once you've downloaded plugins, you can manage them through this area in particular. For example, you might want to have your site linked to Facebook Messenger, and you can do this with your Facebook profile details and a plugin. Users. This is the member area of your site and where you can control the people who have signed up to your site and change their passwords. This is also where you can control the admins and who has access to the back end of your website. If you want more than one person working on the site, or if you're working with a web developer, you can manage them here. Next up, we've got the tools section. This area is used to import and export data from the site. If you want to download all of the site's content, for instance, you can do that here. And then we also have settings. This is the general settings area for the whole site. Most of them are self-explanatory, but this is also where you can control some of the settings for other plugins as well. If you want to hide any of these menu items, you can hit Collapse Menu. and you'll be able to focus on the sections which are specific to you. Visual editors. To make things easier when it comes to creating a fully functioning website, some companies have created a tool that allows you to edit a WordPress site with minimal coding knowledge. These are called visual editors or page builders, and these work exactly as they sound. They allow you to edit the site visually in a drag and drop fashion. You can make changes to the look and feel of the site, and if you're not happy with what you've done, you can easily change it back to how it was before. Visual editors make creating a good-looking website really simple and take a lot less time than learning coding and working out when something isn't working because of a bad code. There are a number of different visual editors for WordPress, some of which you can see here. WordPress also have their own basic visual editing system. You'll find though, to use a lot of themes out there, you'll need a specific visual editor. So it's important you get the right one before you spend money on expensive themes for your site. There's also pro versions of the visual editors out there. On the whole, you don't need to buy these and you can stick with the free versions for now. We recommend focusing on Elementor as it's user-friendly, it's versatile, and comes with a lot of free content. Installing templates, themes, and plugins. The difference between templates, themes, and plugins may seem a bit complicated at first, and some functions do overlap, but let's break it down. All three options are a great way to give your site some personality with minimal effort, and it's easier than building your site from scratch. Let's start with themes. Most websites these days start by using a theme. A theme dictates the general look and feel of a site. They tell WordPress and Elementor what to do, and when and what type of actions a certain object does. For instance, one theme could be quite corporate and not have much going on in terms of colour and style, and another could be very stylistic with lots of animated page transitions and still both have the same content. There are tens of thousands of themes available, and if you have a certain niche that you want to express, there's probably a theme out there for it. Themes are almost always dynamic these days, meaning they'll change the site depending on what device you're looking at it on, like a mobile or a laptop. This is important because a few years ago, Google changed its page ranking algorithms to be in favour of websites that are dynamic. This basically means to be seen by more people, it's important you have a dynamic site and focus on this aspect. Templates come with a theme. Not all websites are used for the same purpose, however a lot of people use the same theme. Therefore, it's important for the theme to be as versatile as possible. This is where templates come in. Templates apply the theme to a number of different sections on the site. For example, if you want your contacts page to look the same as your home page, you can use a template for that. It's an easy way of applying the same characteristics to the whole of your site. With Elementor, you can even save your own templates. This is useful when you're creating similar looking pages over and over again. A good way of doing this is to load a standard theme to use as a base, so you don't have to start from scratch. Make the changes you want, and then save as your own custom template in the Elementor dashboard. Plugins are a whole different category of functionality within WordPress, but are just as powerful as themes and templates. The closest thing they can be compared to is apps on a phone, except they usually serve one purpose on the site. Plugins can be used for anything from creating pop-up banners to directing people to different parts of your website, or integrating social media platforms like Facebook or Twitter to your website. They can also be used in the background of a website to improve its functionality. For instance, a plugin can be installed to back up your website or help improve with something like SEO. There are thousands of plugins, some of which are very useful and some aren't. But if you find one, give it a go and you can always turn it off or delete it later on as they sit in the background of your site. So hopefully that's given you a good introduction to WordPress and Elementor. Hopefully you should have some understanding of what WordPress is, how it compares to other website platforms out there, and how to install it onto your domain. You should understand what a visual editor or page builder is and how it fits in within the dashboard. Take a look at WordPress and get creative with themes, templates, and plugins to create your first website.